emerge slow.
Watching the world burn, watching the world burn, January 8th, 2025. Let's get into it. Man, oh man, a lot of things to talk about in this video. I just get the first one out of the way. There's this ex-post they saying about 300,000 Palestinians in Gaza are on the borderline of dying from starvation, and that 90% are having, starvation-related symptoms from lack of food. So we're just about killed everybody in Gaza. It's getting there. The next thing that I had to talk about, obviously, is the fire in California. Now, I don't know if I can find the clip, but Trump told Gavin Newsom, I think it was in 2019, that, California was the reason they have all these wildfires is because they don't do fire management.
Here's Trump on raking the forest they made so much fun of. Here it is.
Cleaned out and protected. We've got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have much different. We're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out.
And when Trump said that 5 years ago, this was ongoing, and Newsom wouldn't release the water and all the rest of it, they made fun of him. Yeah, he didn't use the technical term fire mitigation, wildfire mitigation. He just said what the foreign minister in his broken English, we clean the forest, we rake it, why do you not do it? And then right here, Governor Gavin Newsom, Trump put out on X today, refuses to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California. Yeah, the farmers, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt that's not even indigenous by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't take care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is to blame for this on top of all of this. No water for the fire hydrants, not firefighting planes, a true disaster. It's all done by design. California, since the mid-90s, has been denying water out of the reservoirs. And then they go, pass a resolution to build $7.5 billion of them. They get the money years ago and build nothing. Nothing. Just like the $45 billion in the last 4 years to have fiber optics to rural areas, not one person got fiber optic. And that's an old number. I looked it up. It's $90 billion now. $7 billion to build electric car chargers. They built 5 or 6 of them. It costs $100,000 a piece. Did you hear me right? And it goes on and on and on. This is administrative war. Here's President Trump when he was president the first time saying you need to rake the forest. And yeah, you don't just build fire breaks around towns and cities and your houses by zoning until the 90s. And again, from Australia to the United States, it's the same thing. Europe, globalism, treaties. We sign UN treaties that say you do this. But Oklahoma and Texas and Alabama and Florida, they tell these regulators, because it's never been passed into law. Remember, the Supreme Court 3 years ago ruled that the FDA and the EPA and all them creating all these regulations without law can't do it. You can't shut off the coal power plants that are totally cleaned by listing carbon dioxide as a toxic waste because Congress didn't agree to that. It's not a law. But they're still doing it. And they use the excuse of a smelt, a minnow that isn't even from California. It's a joke, people. And I've got many other examples in the smart city they wanted to build in a particular area that they have stood down in. Again, the same people that cut the police in half on average around the country. And also wanted to take your guns so you couldn't protect yourself. What does that create? Crime. California passed laws where you can steal up to what, $2,000? Some cities said that's not enough. San Francisco said you can steal $3,000 out of a department store or a Walgreens or any other store. And then what happened? Everybody starts robbing and almost all the stores close. Reporters go to the famous In-N-Out Burger where everybody gets robbed to show it, and they get robbed at gunpoint. Why would you want to run everybody out of California? Why would you want to do that? Because once they totally collapse the U.S. and get full control, then they're going to bring in a total police state, and the globalists are going to own all that property. Remember, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, all owned by the same consortium of private central banks, control 87% of world wealth right now. All they want is to collapse everything to get the rest of it, not just so they have all the property and money, but so they can control all of us. The average person doesn't want to be wealthy because they just want to be happy. Well, sorry, you've got to be independent. You've got to be as wealthy as you can so you can use your money and influence and what you do to stand up for yourself. We don't want a monopoly of power. That's called a dictatorship. We don't want a technocracy and control. We want prosperity and diversity of wealth, a huge, biggest middle class we can get. We want the most well-to-do poor people in the world, and we want the biggest, largest, diverse group of rich people and innovators. That is a renaissance. That's why people wanted to come to America, because it had the greatest opportunities. And that's why they undermine America and the classic ideals of America, because America wasn't just a golden age for us. It was a golden age example for the world, governmentally, business, at every level. And that's why the globalists have to bring us down and repudiate that system and discredit it with Cloward and Piven so that the world doesn't aspire to anything and we slide into the new globalist post-industrial dark age plan. This is the big enchilada. This is what it's all about. This is what the Great Reset is. This is what the world's going to end in 2030 as you know it. And as everything falls apart, as they administratively cut off the food, the fertilizer, the energy, sabotage the culture, pull the security, cut off the firefighters, sabotage all the industries that they don't control because it leaves them standing. And they'll be in full control with a global government and a universal basic income to control every facet of your life and your body and to make you so miserable to say, you want your welfare check for a few more months? Sign up here to sterilize your child. Sign up here for the government to euthanize you. That's happening in Canada. That's happening in the UK. That's happening in the Netherlands. That's happening in blue cities in the US.
Well, that's very true, because for environmental reasons, they don't do fire management. And I tell you what, I'm seeing a bunch of expos that say, oh, this is due to climate change. Climate change, my ass. It's because the Democrats don't do fire management, man. Oh my God. And then there's a lot of ideas that I have. I mean, obviously you can't do it in Los Angeles. And the the circumstances around this, from what I understand, I mean, 100-mile-an-hour winds, I mean, who would have ever thought that? And there's no way to combat it, but let's look at all the things that California has done to make this much worse than it ever would have been. Number one, they don't clear the underbrush. Number two, they don't cut fire lanes. All right, so that's two things right there. The third thing that and this is true everywhere, and it's the way it should be, is that we should build fire retardant homes. I don't know if you've ever seen an earth home, but an earth home, basically they take the dirt and they pile it up on the walls, and that way you get the geothermal effect for the house. It's a great way to build a house, but we don't hardly, in this country, build any of those. That would be fireproof, but let's look at all the things that California did. Okay, so the first thing was they fired all the firemen and police officers because they wouldn't get the jab. Okay, so they lost a bunch of firemen because they refused to get I'm going to go ahead and just say it, the COVID shot. By the way, that was another thing that made me choke. The CEO of YouTube came out and said YouTube is a free speech platform. I don't know what drugs that dude's on, man. You got to be so guarded on YouTube. Every time I said the word mask, I got a strike, man. You have to be so careful about what you say on YouTube. It's unbelievable. But anyway, so that was the first thing. So they lost a lot of firemen back during COVID. Then the next thing was they went into DEI. And the fire chief of Los Angeles is a gay lesbian, or whatever. I'm not sure if she got hired because she's a lesbian or because she was checking a box, or maybe she's qualified. Who knows? Just because you're lesbian doesn't mean that you might not be a good fire chief, but it certainly does sound like a DEI hire to me, and a lot of the firemen are DEI hires. So, which means that they're not hired on merit, they're hired on their race or whatever box they check. By the way, I'm hiking here in the top of the swamp, and a buddy, somebody, I love getting comments, and the guy was talking about, because me, a lot of times I talk about, I don't have my bear spray with me, or even carry a gun. Most of the time I don't carry a gun. And I always say I'm a little bit worried about running into a bear or a wild boar. And so this guy left a comment on one of my hiking videos. He said he was camping and he ran into a bear and a boar. He said, so that shit is real, man. so I was like, yeah, it is real. So whenever you hear me joking about it, it's a damn possibility when you're out here. So I'm just doing the top of the swamp today. I just want to see what it looks like, because I'm going to come back and hike this probably later this week. Not going to make a video because I've already made Marshall Swamp videos. But anyway, getting back to the fire and what California did. The other thing was to save a fish. I don't know the name of it, a smelt or something like that. They drained their reservoirs. Millions of gallons of water, just dumped it out into the sea because for environmental reasons, they wanted to save the fish. So the next thing is, of course, the fire hydrants. The fire hydrants had no water. The firemen go and they'd risk their lives to get into a spot. They hook up to a fire hydrant and there's no water. Oh my God. And then, of course, the mayor is in Africa, and she was a DEI mayor. I guess some billionaire. There was a guy that was pretty competent that ran against her in Los Angeles, but the money came behind her, as with all Democrats. And so they elected, and the people are saying this woman is dumber than a bag of stones. So they got the stupidest mayor. And then she also fired or laid off or cut, she cut the fire budget. I want to say it was huge. It was like $17 million or something. She cut the fire budget to I don't know what the money went to, but it didn't go to the fire department. So you could see the catastrophe or the sequence of events that have led to this Democrat incompetence, the burning of all these places. Now, Do they have my, oh, this was the other thing. Oh my God, the story just goes on and on. So what Gavin Newsom did, or California, I guess because the insurance rates were really, really high on a lot of these, places that were, have a potential risk of fire. So they put a cap. This is what happens when you cap something. Remember when they were gonna cap the price of food? And that the caps never work, man. You have to let the market determine the value of something, and that's the only way that you can keep, because people have to make a profit. So they capped the insurance rates. So all the insurance companies said, well, we can't, we're not making money doing that. So they all pulled out. So a lot of these people that are losing their houses, they don't have fire insurance. So, I mean, God, I feel sorry for them, man. But you vote Democrat, you get what you get what you vote for, right? I mean, I say that all the time. Your vote is the most important thing that you can ever do. And if you vote for a Democrat, I mean, oh my God. But anyway, getting back to the Lake and Raleigh thing. So from what I understand in the bill, and remember, 159 Democrats voted against it. It just says that if an illegal immigrant, boy, it's pretty wet down in here. I wasn't planning on coming all the way down into the swamp. Well, we'll get that on the video here in a minute. I'm surprised because we haven't had that much rain. All right, so anyway, if they commit certainly a violent crime, it just means that they should be deported. That's my understanding of what's in the bill. Now, I'm not sure what crimes the bill includes, but that's just a common sense bill. And then for Fetterman to come out and say, if at least 7 Democrats in the Senate don't vote for that bill, that's why the Democrats lost the election. That's what he was pointing out anyway. And everybody's going, wow, Fetterman, he actually said something that made sense. Oh man, I gotta cut off right here. This is not gonna be easy to navigate. Here, let me show you what I got. We gotta make it across that without killing myself. I'm pretty tired. Here, I wanted to show you the swamp. Check it out. See how wet that is? Yeah, I was going to start the video in another place, but there was just a lot of people here, so that's why I came down into the swamp. And there are bear down here. Hold on. Let me get across.
They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north of water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land. Water for your forests. Your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. And all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that have fallen that, are like.
All right, I made it across. Whew, kind of smelly down in here too. I guess a lot of stuff rotten. Anyway, I wanted to talk about Democrats again in another fashion, which I think is, wow, the water's actually running pretty intense for a swamp. Huh. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I get easily distracted. But the Democrats are doing everything they can to torpedo Trump before he gets into office. I talked about that in a previous video, but I wanted to go over it again. And people are pointing out, Joe Biden is burning the country down. He's pardoning all kinds of hardened criminals and putting them out on the streets. And so, that's going to be a hell of a mess for Trump's team to clean up, is all these criminals that are going to be out. And I'm not even sure. I guess if you commit another crime after you've been pardoned, and then, of course, he's talking about preemptive pardons. If he pardons that little troll, that mass murderer Fauci, I swear to goodness, man, I hope that somebody says that, that Biden has to go to jail for that. You know, I mean, I don't even understand what a preemptive pardon is. If you haven't been charged with a crime or convicted of a crime, how can you pardon somebody? You know, I mean, of course, Apache definitely has committed crimes. So actually what you're saying is, you know, if you've committed a crime, you're pardoned before you can even, you know, go before a jury of your peers. So that's the first thing is Biden and, you know, pardoning all these hardened criminals to get them out on the street. Of course, you know, he was selling the border wall, trying to get that so that Trump can't put in the border, the fence down there. Oh man, there's like 5 or 6 different things that they're doing to torpedo Trump. Oh yeah, the offshore drilling. He put a moratorium that, you know, there won't be any offshore drilling, but I think that Trump can just come in and override that. I think. I don't know. I'm sure they wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't a complication for Trump to be able to open up the offshore drilling. And speaking of Trump, I wanted to comment on this whole Greenland thing. Wow, man, there's a big old tree. I got to show this to you because there's an actual service road here. Hold on one second. We're going to get this, but I was talking about Greenland. So, I mean, I would love for the United States to take Greenland, but there's two things to consider. Look at this. Hold on. Let's get that on the video. Man, look at the roots on that thing. And that's a service road right there. I've hiked down that service road multiple times. That was where I saw the bear. Actually, I saw a bear back there. And look at this. Isn't this weird? I can't find a picnic table in any other place, but there's one down here in the middle of the swamp. I mean, you know, it's crazy, isn't it? Oh, all right. Okay, so 2 things about Greenland. First is, if Trump's intention is to build a NATO base there and put intermediate range nuclear missiles on it, which somebody had said that's one of the reasons that he wants Greenland. Now that's a provocation to Russia. That I don't think we need to go there, man. In fact, I'd like to see us take all the intermediate range nuclear missiles out of Europe and go back to what, you know, Reagan had. I think it was Reagan that him and Gorbachev had removed all those intermediate range nuclear missiles. Well, and of course Kennedy did too. You know, way back in the 60s, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis. So if that's the reason that Trump's trying to get it, I'm not for it. Another bad thing that somebody pointed out, and I didn't realize this, is, well, I think there's only like, 54,000 people that live there. But they said that Denmark pays for all their benefits. So, you know, they get medical care. I don't know if it's a salary that they get, but there's a bunch of different benefits. I assume like a pension or something, or Social Security. And so if we took it over, that would mean that our tax money is going to have to pay all of that Denmark used to pay. So that's 2 bad things about getting to Delaware. Now I'm going to set up and we're going to go through a couple of posts right here. This is, well, we'll aim it this way, but I'll show you what we got here. Isn't that beautiful? I'm up on the bridge going across. And look at here. But boy, the railing is gone. I mean, I don't know, man. Hopefully I won't fall through this thing. All right. Boy, it really sucked to drop the phone here. I mean, I don't know if I would go down in that swamp to get the phone if I dropped it. But let's get the news out of the way here. So this was Zat-71. Important news by Wednesday morning, January 8th. Air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 32 Ukrainian UAVs overnight. Russian Defense Ministry. 11 UAVs were destroyed in the Saratov region. 4 each over the Kursk and Rostov regions. 3 each over the Belgorod and Bryansk regions. 2 over the Krasnodar region and 1 over the Volgograd region, and 4 over the Sea of Azov. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is I just watched the Canadian prepper. He said that there was also a big drone strike, and I'm not sure if this is the same one that's in this thing, that hit the nuclear triad in Russia. And man, it seems like Ukraine's trying to start World War III, aren't they? I mean, my God. And by the way, I don't know if you knew, yesterday was the Orthodox Christian Christmas holiday for Orthodox Christians. And so I said Merry Christmas on X, but I belated Merry Christmas in this video. I didn't make a video yesterday. And then the post goes on. It talks about 7 mercenaries, including 3 from Ukraine, have been detained in Venezuela while preparing terrorist attacks. President Maduro said, according to him, among those caught were also mercenaries from the United States and Colombia. In total, 125 mercenaries were detained in Venezuela from November to December. That's an interesting little thing. And then I'm going to get into some other news. He goes on and talks about some stuff there. This was an interesting post. I thought this is better a dictatorship like in Belarus than a democracy like Ukraine. Well, Ukraine's not a democracy anymore. It's a totalitarian rule. But that was Lukashenko, out of Belarus. This is Laura Logan, and I didn't know about this. Did you? I knew about Ashley Babbitt that was shot by that Capitol police officer, but this is something Laura Logan posted. It says, say her name, Roseanne Boylan. Who is Roseanne Boylan, and how come we haven't heard about this? But it says, killed on January 6th, viciously beaten by a Capitol police officer while lying unconscious on the steps. Those who tried to save her were gassed repeatedly and falsely prosecuted for their efforts. That was this is about the Kenneth Roth is the guy that posted this. It's Israelis' war crime starvation strategy. Hunger is skyrocketing in Gaza. 90+% of the population faces crisis, or worse, levels of food insecurity. 300,000 plus people are likely to experience catastrophic hunger, the highest level of food insecurity. And I'm just trusting that post. Obviously, I assume he's got his numbers right. The rest are just posts about the fire. Well, here's one from Laura Logan. Oh yeah, this is talking about Zuckerberg. I will never forget how bravely they stood up at the most critical moment, when it was the hardest, when it mattered the most, because there were so few. And remember the 2 California docs who were suspended from social media for medical misinformation? Well, it turns out they were right all along, and it was the CDC, the WHO, the FDA, and Fauci, and the media who were spreading medical misinformation. So the point here, the reason why I wanted to read that post was because somebody pointed this out. I don't know if you knew, Zuckerberg did a whole 5-minute dissertation about how Facebook, or Fakebook, I call it, is going to now be a free speech platform. And I think it might have been Insurrection Barbie, and she says, well, I'm not going to forgive him. Okay, let's take me, for example. I was telling everybody about the COVID and the jab and everything else, and how the Democrats were limiting free speech, and how January 6th was a psyop. I didn't know the FBI involvement at the time, but I told everybody it was a setup. So it's awful hard to say those things when everybody's coming against you and calling you a conspiracy theorist and everything else. That's when you stand up for free speech, is when it's being taken away. Well, now that Trump's going to give us free speech again, and because the Democrats hate free speech, man. They can't stand free speech. But anyway, so everybody knows that we're going to get free speech back when Trump gets in office. And so now everybody's saying, oh, yeah, YouTube, we're a free speech platform. Fakebook, we're a free speech platform. So anyway, and then these doctors that lost their jobs, how many of them lost their jobs because they spoke out against the misinformation? So that's what she was pointing out. Well, this is Insurrection Barbie. Yeah, this is a short post. DOJ is urging SCOTUS to reject Donald Trump's request to delay the TikTok ban until after he comes into office, and has a change to find a solution. Personally, for me, this solidifies my belief that banning TikTok is not actually rooted in national security, but instead is linked to censorship, because I'm never on the same side as Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. I agree with that. And by the way, I don't want to see TikTok banned. I don't care if Satan himself runs it, as long as it's a platform for people to have conversations, you know. So what if China collects the information? The NSA collects everything you do anyway, man. Everything you say on your cell phone, every text that you send, every email that you send, unless it's encrypted, well, even the encrypted ones are collected by the NSA. You have no privacy in the United States. So if the Chinese are collecting your information on TikTok, what difference does it make? It's kind of like people think, well, I don't want to give up my social security number. Every criminal on the planet has your social security number. Every database. I mean, especially when Experian got hacked. You know, Experian, all those social security numbers have been hacked out of databases by the criminals around the world multiple times from multiple sources, okay, and your birth date. So if somebody on the phone, and you know, if it's a bank or whatever, they're asking you for your social security number and your birth date, you might as well just give it to them because if it's a criminal, they already got it, or they can get it real easily. Now, granted, you giving it to them might make it easier for them, but there's all kinds of dark web databases with that information. Anyway, just a cybersecurity tip for you. Peace out. Stay free. Oh yeah, let's get a nature shot on the way back. There was two other things about the fire that I completely forgot about. I think they said like 400,000 people are without power. Now the reason for that is, once again, the environmental laws in California. The power companies, in order to follow the environmental laws, haven't been able to upgrade the power grid. So a lot of those power lines are above ground, making them susceptible to those 100-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds, or whatever you want to call them, those winds. And so, you know, they have to shut the power off to keep, you know, from starting a wildfire. Well, the wildfire's already there. But I imagine that in this case, it's just the lines have been blown down. So the federal government, Joe Biden, gave California billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, and they can't even upgrade their power grid. That's the first thing. The other thing was, I was listening to the radio today, and I had no idea, but there's been a project that's been ongoing in California for a high-speed, there's the tree then, another view of it from a little bit further away. Anyway, this high-speed rail that they've been building it for, I don't know how many years, let's just say 12. Anyway, they've spent $100 billion trying to build a high-speed rail system, and they got nothing to show for it. No rail, nobody's ever been on the train. I don't know how many billions. The original budget was somewhere around, you know, like a few, oh, there's a bird down there. Can you see it? The original budget was much lower than 100 billion. There he goes. Let's see if hopefully you're seeing him on the video. The tree's kind of blocking. He's a ways away over there. All right, so that was just two more things I wanted to add. I'm coming up to this treacherous place I got to get across, so hopefully I won't fall in the swamp. We'll see what happens.